The year I was born, 1981, we were in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. If someone told you that just a decade later the Soviet Union would collapse, do you think anyone would have seen that coming? Well, some did see it coming. Those same people are seeing the same patterns occurring here in the United States. The same people who predicted the Soviet collapse said American collapse was next. Since we are doing the same things, the collapse was not due to one or two things but was from several things that occurred over that decade. Overspending on government on both welfare and warfare. When other superpowers collapsed, it was largely due to overspending on military. As well as just like today we see shortages of goods, this later led to inflation and resulting in price controls. Another similar factor was how dependent the economy was on oil prices. When key difference is Russian oil was nationalized. Unlike America, they cannot just print money, so they needed oil revenues to fund the government. From the early to mid-1980s, oil prices dropped about 75%. Just as things couldn't get worse, the nuclear meltdown at the Chernobyl power plant occurred. The government tried to cover it up, but the rest of them quickly realized what was going on. Not only was there economic turmoil going on, there was political changes going on as well. They made an attempt to try to a more free market economy. These reforms largely failed because it was already too late. The Soviet Union went from the second largest growing economy to a collapse in just a decade. This was something that no one saw coming. Could this already be happening to America? Just like the Soviet, we are in an endless war with Afghanistan. Just like the Soviets, we have an economy dependent on oil prices. If oil prices fall too fast and too quickly, could lead to another Great Depression. Prices getting too high could lead to runaway inflation and the collapse of the dollar. Could the pandemic be the fail nail in the coffin of the American empire? Did the Soviet-style collapse begin in 2020 like it did in Soviet Russia in the 80s? When people think of economic collapse, they tend to think of something short-lived. Something that would last only a few years. But what if the entire global economic system faces a Soviet-style collapse? Will you be prepared? When it comes to be prepared, or preppers as they are called, they mostly like to think in terms of a few years. They believe they can just wait out few years. But what if this time it's a slow descent of the industrial world? Many people in the prep community seem to think in terms of collapse of the monetary system, our industrial system. They think they can just press a button and things will be reset. Like the term thrown around recently, the quote, Great Reset. This scenario is not some end of the world event but more of an end era. Those who will be prepared are already going back to pre-industrial way of thinking. Doing things more in a local level. Solutions would be more of local farming-based system, not our current consumerism system. Doing things less dependent on the current infrastructure. Some might say that technology will be the answer. They say renewables will be the solution to keep the industrial economic system going. The problem is the energy density of fossil fuels that are lacking in renewables, as well as the fossil fuels required to maintain them. We may not see a Soviet-style collapse soon, but the system will collapse at some point. Are you ready?